Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beat in the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the two big games which took place over the weekend. Liverpool getting the win over Fulham, Arsenal running away winners over Wolves, and some interesting results in the FA Cup semi-final as well. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches and to talk some football, we have returning to the podcast, Christophe.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christophe. Some interesting results, I would say, over the weekend. You could say Liverpool and Arsenal taking advantage of Manchester City absence from the league fixtures and pretty much getting a win. And you could say opening a lead on City, but City do have a game in hand. But talk to us, Christoph. I mean, you saw the Arsenal game versus Wolves. How did you find that one? I mean, Arsenal running away winners there.
I'm not sure I would call it running away winners. Arsenal did get the 3 points, which was vital, but I thought it was a subpar performance overall. Arsenal again creating a lot of chances, but not finding the back of the net enough times for me, which is what happened last week at Aston Villa, creating chances but not scoring the goals. And it was the same thing here this week, but against a weaker opposition, we saw where a couple of chances went in, and Arsenal picked up the 3 points, which is key. But I mean, it's you say top of the table, but Man
Yeah, I
City has a
mean,
game in hand. Liverpool also has a game in
but
hand. So
you do have to win your fixtures, Christoph. I mean, if you didn't know, if let's assume Arsenal had failed to win versus the Wolves team, we would be having a different conversation this evening. So you do have to win and keep the pressure on and hope for a Manchester City slip, so to speak, or they end up drawing a game or even losing a game, and then of course Liverpool, Arsenal is right there to pounce on those errors. So I have to say, well done to Liverpool and Arsenal for pretty much keeping the pressure on. They are now a point ahead of City, but City do have a game in hand. But you have to call a spade a spade. But I thought for this game, though, Christoph, I mean, Arsenal was in control of this game from start to finish. Wolves put up a decent enough defense before the first goal went in, pretty
what
late
is
in the
in
first
control?
half.
What does in control
In
mean?
control mean dominating possession and taking the game to Wolves, creating
That,
chances, as
that
you
uh,
mentioned, dictating the
possession
pace.
possession doesn't win games.
Yeah, but I mean, Arsenal did come away the winners. They did
No,
manage to find two goals late in the
indeed,
first and late in the second.
yeah, they did come away the winners, but the overall performance was not good enough. It
Mm.
doesn't matter if you dominate possession. It doesn't matter if you create 100
No, but I
chances if you only
mean,
score
Arsenal
two.
was leading for long stretches in the game. It's not as if they were
Irrelevant.
fighting to get a goal deep into time added on at the end of the game. I mean, they scored around the 44th, 45th minute, somewhere thereabouts. A decent build up. Jesus laying it off to Trossard, who, I would say quality finish, upright. No keeper in the world could save that one pretty much.
Well,
And
there
from
are a
there on in.
number out there are a number of tougher games coming up. Specifically, I believe tomorrow Arsenal will face Tottenham. Well, we'll see
No,
what
Chelsea,
all that.
Chelsea, Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsea, and then the weekend is Tottenham. So go ahead, create as many chances as you want. If you don't score any, what was all the chance creation for?
Well, I mean,
Earlier
in
in
the
the
in
season,
this one, I mean, they did create some chances and they took two out of it. So, I mean, 3 points in the bag. You have to give credit where credit is due, Christoph. You seem to be a bit hard on the Gunners. I mean, they are still churning over the result and getting the 3 points, another 3 points in the bag. And I mean, at the pace at which the Arsenal team is going, they should surpass their tally from last season. I mean, it may not result in a trophy as to how things are structured now. But that pressure has to be maintained on Man City, and you can only do your business and hope that something happens with City and their matches to come.
you don't depend on others to win results for you.
Well, that has always been my mantra from the get-go, and hence the reason I pretty much wrote Liverpool off ever since they drew 2-2 with Manchester United after dominating that game. I mean, as you mentioned, it doesn't make sense creating this heap of chances and failing to take your 3 points. And again, I mean, Liverpool themselves were in action versus Fulham. And again, much like you, it was not necessarily a very convincing performance. It's not a performance that's going to exude confidence in the supporters, but it's a performance which did get them the 3 points. And we saw a few quality finishes in that game. I mean, Trent Arnold Alexander, Christophe, reminding us as to why he is considered one of the best right backs in the world.
Oh, it was
You
a
saw,
quality free kick. Yeah, it
yeah,
was
I
a quality
mean,
free kick.
credit has to be given. I mean, a dead ball specialist, so to speak, one of the few specialists in the league. And surprisingly, though, I was looking at some statistics in terms of goals from direct free kicks this season. And surprise, surprise, not many of those direct free kicks are actually going in. A number of players are tied on one for the season. Yeah, a trend, of course, being among them, but you have players like Foden, Sterling has one. But there has been no real standout in the past. We look at the likes of James Ward-Prowse maybe getting 4 or 5 of these dead balls, when Payet was plying his trade in the league as well. We could
Van
look at a
Persie.
Payet, right? But these days, it seems as if it's a dying art, Christoph. I mean, what's the cause for that? Can you pinpoint any particular reason why we're not seeing a lot of direct free kicks going on?
I think it's a case where teams have looked at the conversion rate of direct free kicks and have decided to go the more indirect route and look for headers because there is a higher conversion there. So because the conversion rate is so slow on free kicks, teams are focusing more on getting those um second balls, those headers, and routine stuff, 'cause we've seen a lot more free kick routines where players are laying off other players and so on. But
I
direct free
mean,
kicks,
we
the
also see
conversion rates.
Arsenal hiring a free kick specialist who is coming on the touchline to direct the team, so to speak. It's the first I'm really seeing that in Premier League history where the head coach is pushed to one side and the free kick coach is the one in the coach's box, really directing traffic once Arsenal has a free kick. Have you ever seen that before?
Um, I'm not sure I've seen it, but yeah, Arsenal has hired a set piece specialist, and we've seen where that has paid dividends, where Arsenal do have the highest number of goals from set pieces in the league.
Indeed. He's definitely earning his money and he's making his presence felt for all to see, really. But yeah, a real sublime free kick there from Arnold Alexander, really getting the ball rolling for this Liverpool team. But again, Christoph, it's something I've been speaking about all season. Liverpool and their leaky defense. And again, in this game, they were pegged back by another goal out of nowhere, you could say. Uh, Fulham leveling 1-1 just before the halftime, and Liverpool definitely had to galvanize their efforts. And come second half, they did manage to find two more goals. One there from the Dutchman, Ryan Gravenberch, a quality strike from outside the box, hitting the upright and going in. And then in and around the 73rd minute, Jata, a missing cog, I would say, from this Liverpool attack. He converted a chance he got. And I must say it was a refreshing look to see Jota on the field and scoring, unlike probably Nunes. Maybe if it was Nunes there and getting these chances, then, you know, your guess is as good as mine as to whether he would score. But definitely Jota seemed to be a better finisher, a better taker of chances with a higher conversion rate in terms of goals to chances. Giving a higher XG, so to speak. So yeah, Jota getting on the score sheet. Salah for this game, Christoph, was benched. I'm not sure. Is it a case where Salah is out of form or is he having some sort of fallout with Klopp?
It might not be a fallout with Klopp. We do know that Salah did come back from injury recently. It could be a case where Klopp, maybe there's a slight injury. He's not fit enough to perhaps play the 90, but fit enough to potentially come on if needed. So that might be what we're seeing.
Or
I
possibly
don't.
keeping him fresh as well for the Merseyside derby coming up versus
As
Everton?
as well as that. Um, But I think it might have just been tactical or resting the player. I don't think there's any issues going on behind the scenes at the moment. I mean, what would be
Uh
the point of having a
Well, I
fight with a
mean,
coach who
it
is
could be a
outgoing?
message. It could be a message that Klopp is sending. I'm not sure, but my gut feeling is really he's being rested. I feel to run out in the Merseyside derby versus Everton, which possibly Klopp may have deemed a tougher game when compared to the game versus Fulham. So it's obvious that Klopp is probably prioritizing that Merseyside derby in terms of saving his best players for that match. But give thanks for the 3 points, keeping the pressure on both Arsenal as well as City at the top of the league. And it's over to Man City as to what they will come with in the EPL. But speaking of Man City, Christophe, they are now in the finals of the FA Cup, taking down what I should say is a very wasteful Chelsea team. I mean, Chelsea got that game and really failed to convert. I mean, Jackson being one of the main culprits in that game, but they had City against the ropes, but just failing to convert, going ahead, and eventually they succumbed to Man City 1 goal to nil. Give us your take on that game, Christoph. How did you see that one playing out?
Like you said, I thought Chelsea had a good striker up front. Maybe if even Cole Palmer was playing as striker, I think Man City would have been dead and buried, to be honest. It was just down to poor finishing on the day by Chelsea, which is what we said. Chelsea and Pochettino always seems to have a plan, specifically this season where Man City has struggled to beat them. We saw the first game this season it was what 4-4 I think
For
Chelsea. What was the score on
it
the
was a
second
draw
game?
as well.
A
I
draw as
believe it
well.
drew. Yeah,
Yeah, Man City has struggled this season against the other traditional top four,
six
top
teams.
six teams,
Mhm.
except Manu. Um, so it could be a case where teams have figured out how to beat Man City at the moment, but also specifically Chelsea. Had they have a good goal scorer, it would have been lights out, and Chelsea would have made it to the finals.
Yeah, definitely a good tactical performance from Chelsea. They stood firm defensively. Of course, Man City dominated the possession and was pretty much taking the game to Chelsea. However, it was Chelsea who created the more clear-cut chances, playing on the counter and also building their attack when given a chance. And as mentioned, if a more clinical striker was on display for this Chelsea unit, then it could have been a totally different result. I mean, Jackson getting a few clear-cut opportunities really to put this game to bed, or even just score a goal and apply a bit of pressure to Man City. But chance after chance, he came up with blanks. And, another good performance, I would say, from a Cole Palmer coming off on the losing end this time around, but he did get off a few quality shots at goal, forcing Ederson into some saves and really looking quality player, I must say, bringing Chelsea all season, but it was not to be. It was Man City who came up with the goods late in that second half period. And
If
at that point in time, not much chance for Chelsea to come back.
I mean, if I recall, there was also a penalty shot for Chelsea that the referee did not review. I think it
Yeah,
was a
there was a
Cole
penalty
Palmer
shot
free kick.
from a handball, right?
Right, right.
The wall disintegrated. I believe it was Grealish that was the culprit who had his hand out, or the ball struck him on the arm. Of course, that ball was traveling for some distance, so it was quite shocking that that one did not go to a VAR review. But again, as I have mentioned throughout this season, Christoph, the referees in the middle is blowing or making these calls with an element of caution, in that they believe if they make an error, then VAR will bail them out rather than being brave and making the call themselves. And I think psychologically, it is resulting in a number of poor decisions from the referee in the middle, because, of course, VAR is not going to intervene unless they deem it a clear and obvious error. And that is where the human
So,
element comes in,
so,
determining what is clear and obvious. That is
so
where
did VAR not
views vary.
review? Did VAR not review the free kick and saw that there was an error here? Was it not clear and obvious to VAR?
Well, that is exactly what I'm saying. That is where views will differ. What is clear and obvious? What's the definition of that from a refereeing point of view? And as I said, the man in the middle is blowing or making the calls with that caution where they are not making the big calls, hoping that if they did err, then VAR would bail them out. But as I said, it's a psychology that is now plaguing the referee game. So not sure how they'll solve this, but again, another game in which you could say call by the referee could have changed the outcome of the game. And
But there was
of
another
course,
controversial game over the weekend. Was it Everton versus? Let me check. There was a game that there was controversy surrounding it where there
well,
were
I'm not sure if
three.
you're speaking about Classico. I mean,
No,
the
no,
lack
not
of goal
Classico.
line technology in Spain is shocking at this moment. A big top league of La Liga's quality still have not yet implemented goal line technology in their league or in their football. And big controversy over the weekend as it relates to that Madrid Barcelona clash. You know, but we move. It just goes to show that some countries are still lagging behind in terms of the use or implementation of technology. Technology which can definitely help the game. And for sure, there's no controversy with goal line technology. As of such, it seemed to be almost a 100% error-free piece of technology, which pretty much determines whether all the ball have crossed all the line in determining whether there's a goal or not. So it's a technology which could be implemented definitely, but
I
the
mean,
future of football, Christoph. I mean, each year we see the introduction of more and more technology. So I mean, looking ahead 20, 30 years down the line, there may very well be no need for assistant referees, where uh, offside calls are automatic or run through artificial intelligence, where, the margin of error
if
is determined in quick order.
when you introduce goal line technology and particularly in La Liga, it's harder to pay off referees when you have something tell you that a goal was scored.
Are you saying there's some payoff going on in La Liga that we are unaware of?
I mean, we see Barcelona is under investigation. I would not be surprised if there are, a number of other top teams that
Well,
are
I mean,
also
definitely it's not unprecedented. We saw where in Italy, I mean, teams like Juventus were relegated to the second division for all sort
match
of
fixing.
referee shenanigans. So
Yeah,
it's not
so
beyond the realm of possibility that teams are definitely involved in some sort of match
uh,
fixing.
right.
And
So when you introduce your goal line technology that states clearly if something is a goal or not, it makes it harder for a referee to sway a game in one direction.
indeed, indeed. And that is where I believe the technology comes in handy, where you remove the human element, the human emotion, and you work with the numbers, you work with the true definition of the rules, But time is the master, time will tell. But we continue to enjoy the beautiful game, nevertheless. And I mean, there was another brilliant game taking place on Sunday. Manchester United eventually coming away winners versus a spirited Coventry City team, Christoph. I mean, what were your thoughts on that game? Manchester having gone 3-0 up, were pegged back to 3-3, only to then, get the result in penalties. Talk to us. How did you see that game?
I think I think United should be utterly embarrassed by the result, regardless of if they went to the final or not. Clearly, something is wrong in Manchester, and something needs to be fixed. I would be surprised if Eric Ten Hag is the manager next season.
Mm. But I mean, facts are the facts, Christoph. They are in the finals and they now give themselves an opportunity to win a piece of silverware. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of
There is
possibility
no
that Manchester
opportunity there.
United could beat Man City. I
No,
mean, we've
it
seen the
is beyond that.
fragilities which Chelsea have exposed.
Yeah, we've seen the fragility where Chelsea has exposed, and uh, Chelsea, I would say, despite having a poor season, probably have the better manager and can get his game plan across for the most part. We're not seeing that as the case with Manchester United. You can't be going up 3-0 up halftime to a team that is not even in the Premier League, only for it to get pegged back 3-all and go all the way to penalty shootout to
And
win.
I must
It's
say there was
ridiculous.
a heart in mouth moment, Christoph, in and around, I would say, late in that first half when scores were leveled at 3-3 and Coventry City got the go-ahead goal. Momentarily celebrating that goal, only for it to be called back for a marginal offside call. I mean, to me, that was a turning point in the game, in all honesty. Had that goal been given, then it would have been lights out for Manchester United. But ah, Coventry City not keeping their nerves in that extra time period, the captain blazing over. And it was Manchester United, you could say, the more experienced team. And in terms of, you know, uh, the finals, it's a more, what should I say, spectator type final. It's a Manchester Derby final, and it makes for a better TV, in all honesty. Coventry City versus Man City would have been a David versus Goliath situation. But now you have two of the bigger names in world football. And this FA Cup final should definitely be a big spectacle. All eyes will be on it. And we'll be seeing who will come away victors in this one. Another a repeat of last season. So definitely, the narrative is set. Manchester United seeking revenge, and of course, Man City looking to defend their FA Cup title and possibly go for that double. They are now out of the Champions League. So two trophies are left on the block, the EPL, which they are in the thick of it with. And of course, they are now in the finals of the FA Cup. So well done to Man City. I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due. And of course, well done to Manchester United as well. They fought their
Well
way
done.
through. I mean, they fought their way through and they are indeed in the final. Many a teams have fallen by the wayside, so you have to give credit to the two finalists, and your guess is as good as mine as to who will win. Obviously, Man City should enter this one as favorites, but you would have seen over the years that there is enough firepower in this Manchester United team to definitely cause a few problems to Man City if they can get it right on the day. We all know Manchester United is built for counter attacking, and it's anticipated that that is what we will see in this final. I mean, early preview would be Man City dominating the possession and Manchester United playing on the counter with the rapid pace of Garnacho, possibly a Rashford, possibly a Highland up front. And of course, Bruno Fernandes trying to string those through bars from the midfield. So it should be an interesting game come final time. But we'll have to watch and see what transpire. But of course, Christoph, there were some other big results taking place in the EPL. We saw Brentford running away big winners over Luton. And it's looking as if this Luton team may very well get relegated, Christoph.
It's looking that way, but the controversy I think I was referring to was the Everton Nottingham Forest game. Where Nottingham Forest had three penalties waved away, three clear and obvious penalties. So, if I recall, the referee for that game is actually a Luton fan,
Well,
and Burnley had
conspiracy theory.
Burnley reported this to the FA prior to the match and asked that the referee be removed and
Mm.
replaced with a new referee, and this was waved away by the FA. I think Burnley, it says they will be taking some legal action against the FA in this case. So, you know, I don't know, is is it protocol to have referees who are fans of other teams refereeing games that are potentially impacting these teams that they are fans of?
That's an interesting question, an interesting dilemma indeed. Obviously, this will need some further investigation, but quite interesting in all honesty. I mean, Everton and Nottingham Forest have been hit with some points deduction this season. And they are two of the teams who are in that relegation dogfight along with Burnley and Luton. Sheffield look as if they are indeed a Ghana. if things go bad in the next round of games, then they could officially be relegated from the Premier League. But from the start of the season, Sheffield looked like the team that is guaranteed to go back down to the Championship. The other two teams is in a dogfight, so we'll have to definitely wait and see. But definitely, Everton is in and amongst that fight. They next will face Liverpool, and that's going to be a very tough game. Hence, as I mentioned earlier, the possibility why a few key players like Mo Salah was rested by Klopp in this previous game versus Fulham. This game taking place midweek. And we'll see how that one plays out. But yeah, it's definitely a scrap for these teams fighting off relegation. Big money is on display, Christoph. Is a real the EPL has really turned into a big money league, and the cash inflow from especially TV rights is a big drop off. If you drop down to the championship, you're losing a lot of revenues, and oftentimes teams are forced to sell their better players, which then creates almost a vacuum effect where they have major difficulty in bouncing back immediately to the EPL. Many teams fall in the championship and have yet to see the day of light as it results to them getting back into the EPL. I mean, teams like Stoke, Bolton, Middlesbrough, these are teams who have had long runs in the EPL, but once they went down to the championship, it was lights out, and that's it. Some even end up in second division or even third division English football because of the real fall off in terms of the finances. All their better players would have departed the club, and then they are scrapping to get players in order to remain competitive. So it's not very easy. It's really heartbreak for fans as well as it could spell the end of a club in terms of their participation in the higher leagues, in all honesty. I mean, we've seen it over the years, and if you're not careful financially, then that could possibly reach you. Hence the reasons why some of these teams really don't go out spending a lot of their cash. They tend to fight it out with the players at their disposal. You look at the likes of Burnley or even Luton, they have been shrewd with their finances. So in the event that they are indeed relegated, then the possibility of them bouncing back immediately is still there. Their finances hasn't been wrecked or their budget completely wrecked by relegation. So we'll have to wait and see, but definitely the relegation fight is on, and it's your guess as good as mine as to who will remain up or who will go down. But every year there are a surprise or two, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But definitely an interesting weekend of football. Christoph, any final thoughts on what we saw over the weekend?
Um, Not really. I think it was a mostly straightforward weekend. Some questionable VAR decisions that definitely need to be reviewed by the FA because they are potentially having a very big effect on a number of results. Specifically Nottingham Forest, Everton, and that Chelsea Man City, where I would say clearly um
But I
it
mean,
was
at
a
this point,
handball, it was a
even
penalty.
if even if those games are reviewed, Christoph, I mean, much like that Liverpool Tottenham game from earlier in the season, where the referee association clearly came out and said, "Hey, we made an error." Fact of the matter is, the game isn't going to be replayed. I mean, those 3 points are gone. I mean, if you look at the top of the league now, imagine Liverpool had gotten the full 3 points from that game. They would have been 2 points clear at the top of the league. Hypothetically speaking. So it's not as if these games are going to be replayed or you're going to get back points because the referee made an error. Yes, it's good for the learning process, but at the end of the day, these are decisions which will cost team. Sometimes people say, these decisions balance themselves out throughout the course of the season. But, we're talking about millions of dollars in revenue. And one bad decision could really cost a team their lifeblood in the EPL. But it's just a situation we have to live with. We have to give and take. It is what it is at this point in time. And, it's
Yeah,
just something in the
but
game you have to factor in.
what happens when teams decide that they are going to start suing for poor decisions being made?
Well, I'm not sure if that's part
Cause
of the legal
uh,
framework that the EPL allows. In all honesty, I don't
uh,
believe you can get points in the boardroom, so to speak.
but teams are losing a lot of money and are facing,
Well, I
financial
mean,
ruin.
that's
So
due to their own, what should I say, breaking of the financial fair play rules, which is known to all, which all clubs would have signed on to. So we'll wait to see how the situation with Man City pans out. I mean, we've seen where Everton have been deducted points, Nottingham Forest. I mean, there are several
Man City will
charges
have
pending
no points
against Man
deducted.
City. We'll see how it play out. I mean,
Nothing will happen.
we'll well, well, we have to wait and see, Christoph. I mean, these things, these arbitration do take time, and I mean, 115 charges. It's very substantial when compared to the likes of Everton, which would have had what 6, 7 charges, I believe. So we definitely have to wait and see. But it is what it is. It's just part of the game. It's an accepted fact. It's a age-long debate, and this is part of the reason we love the game. Some level of controversy is always there, which give the fans something to discuss, to debate, to talk about, and it makes the game. It does add that little element of doubt to the game. What could have been, and it does spark a bit of debate and fanfare among the spectators. So we'll wait and see. Just part of the game, something we have to accept and move on. So it is what it is. But definitely, yes, viewers and subscribers, another weekend of exciting football action. And we do have some mid-week fixtures also coming up. So definitely something to look forward to keep us occupied during the week. And then, of course, regular EPL returns on the weekend. So the games are really coming thick and fast. Uh, with the Champions League also boiling down as well, there are less teams involved, and you know what? Only 3 matches to go. The are 5 matches, I would say, the 2 legs of both semifinals, and then the big final being held in England, Wembley, this year around. So definitely something to look forward to. Unfortunately, no English team will be present for that one. Real Madrid really taking care of business versus Man City. And of course, the big bad Bayern Munich taking care of business versus Arsenal. And over on the other side, you also have another German giant, Dortmund, versus the French champions, PSG. So lots of countries represented, but the Germans seem to be edging it. 2 teams represented in the semi-final. And of course, the Euros this year, Christoph, is being held in Germany. Is this sign of things to come? One may ask. Oftentimes, they say the fortunes of the German team is oftentimes pegged between the performance of Bayern Munich and Dortmund. I mean, this season we saw Bayer Leverkusen, the Xabi Alonso coach team, yet to lose a game in the league, Christoph. Are we seeing an invincible team emerging, rivaling the early 2000s Arsenal team?
Potentially, I mean, there's still a number of games left to be played, but they are They have the potential to go invincible as well.
Yes, definitely. They have all but wrapped up the German title, and now it's just a matter of playing
No,
to
they've
break
already wrapped it up.
records. Right, the German title is pretty much gift wrapped. They are now just playing to break as many records as they can, and it will definitely be interesting to see how that season boils down. All eyes will be following that Bayer Leverkusen team of 2024. But we move, viewers and subscribers. Christoph, just like to thank you again for coming through. Of course, sharing your thoughts and your opinions on, the football action. Viewers and subscribers, thanks again for logging on with us. Continue to share the Beat in the Press podcast. And of course, if you haven't subscribed as yet, viewers and subscribers, hit that subscription bell. Help us to grow the channel. We are moving towards 400 subscribers, and your help is definitely needed in that regard. So share the podcast, hit that like button, and of course, feel free to leave a comment. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.